Well, I thank you for coming on Heritage Hip Hop, because the goal of Heritage Hip Hop is not to just talk about beats and rhyme.
Right.
It's to show the intelligence of the artist and to show that we are deeper than just breathing heavy, making ad-libs, trap, hi-hats. Fuck all that. It's about the inner essence of a man.
Right, to stay, I don't know if y'all can see that, but mighty healthy. Shout out to Ghost, man.
That's what it is. So please give everybody your social medias and let's finish this off correctly.
My social media, I just changed my name on Instagram, but you can still find me by the handle Dox Diggla, but it's now brick_city, CITI_Buddha, BUDDHA. That's Instagram. On Facebook, I'm Dox Diggla. Y'all can hit me up on my website, doxdiggla.com. Get the merch, get the music, get the events, get the appearances and performance and all that, whatever's going on. I'm not really on Twitter too much. I'm not really on social media as much as I used to be, but you can hit me up on those platforms.
All right, so let's go into the rapid fire, which is not yes, no questions. It's the things that define the MC. Questions that I'll ask. I don't care about your favorite color or show you watch. I don't really care. I care about you as an individual and your staying in life. So here we go. I'm going to ask you questions based on theory. I'm going to ask you questions based on music. Together. Here we go. First, who's the most impactful artist in hip-hop that impacted your life? Doesn't have to be your MC. It could be somebody who did something in hip-hop culture.
Rakim.
How?
And I was just having this conversation with my wife, who's a lot younger than me. I was driving by, somebody was at the bus stop, they was bumping Rakim, so it prompted me to throw in Rakim. But Rakim, in two different ways, I feel like revolutionized hip hop and created what we have now. One, approach the rhyme scheme, right? People wasn't putting full thoughts into a bar or a half a bar or into a sentence to the degree that Rakim was doing it on the mainstream level. It may have been people doing it at that time that didn't get that notoriety, but on the mainstream level, being able to rhyme multiple syllables, multiple words, sometimes whole sentences, and still infuse the balance that we just talked about of what he learned in his life at that time. And again, everybody ain't got to be on this level, but what he had his understanding of self, his understanding of spirit, him still being fly, him still being from the hood, and he was able to not just, okay, we're gonna rap about basketball, or we're gonna rap. He was able to infuse all of that into a way of rhyming that the common man was like, okay, that's more conversational. You know what I'm saying? I can have an actual conversation on a beat and just get across where I'm at and what my story is. Without that happening, we don't have the level of lyricism, we don't have the level of hip-hop music that we have today. So Rakim, I think, is the most influential.
Okay. What is the perfect beat? The best beat in hip-hop history? Meaning, if that person didn't come out with that song, it would have been your song.
Yeah, I can't answer that. It's too many.
There's
way too many
Just
fire
give me
beats
one.
in hip-hop
Just give
history,
me one.
bro. Sheesh.
Just give me one. One that speaks to your soul right now. Doesn't have to be right or wrong. It's just one song.
Okay, I'll go, and this is by far, I'm not saying this is the best hip hop beat ever, but for me, the intro on Black on Both Sides.
Okay, most def.
And the reason I say that, and honestly, lyrically, that may be one of the most important hip hop songs ever, because it wasn't just him showing you his skill level, right? It was always, I mean, Most is fire, so it's always that to a certain degree, but he actually encapsulated what hip-hop started as, and at that point, what it had become. Hip-hop is ad space for liquor and things of this nature that he was saying. But behind it was that tribal, ancestral drum. And it feels like, and it sounded like, he actually had somebody come in there and strike that jump in. I mean, that wasn't just a drum track somebody put together. So to have that essential layer underneath the storyline of hip-hop is almost like a beast that came out of the forest to either save us or destroy us. I feel like that's one of the most important pieces of music in hip-hop history. Go check that out, the intro on Black on Both Sides, if y'all never heard that album. That's one of my favorite albums ever.
Okay, that's dope. So that was another question. What album impacted your life the most and helped you change your life? Is it that one?
No. One of them.
Okay.
think it was written.
It was written.
It was written by Nas. And whenever people talk about Nas, and I get it, the nostalgia, of course, with the talent and the impact of Illmatic, but I definitely don't feel like Illmatic is Nas' best album. But it was written because being somebody that came from the church, but also having the infusion of being a student of hip hop, I really like Nas raised me to a certain degree. He raised a lot of us to a certain degree. And if an artist is on their job, they're gonna end up raising generations. Even if they're not, they're gonna still end up raising generations because of how impactful this genre is. But I watched Nas. I remember reading, I don't know if it was The Source or XXL, I think it was The Source at that time, but I remember The Source where he was on the cover, I think, or at least the cover of his article where the Bible was burning, right? And at that time, he didn't believe in God, it was fuck religion and all this shit, right? And on that album, I felt like the street Nas, the lyrical Nas, the religious Nas, the spiritual Nas, all that stuff started to really come together and coalesce into the middle. And again, we're healing, we're balanced. When you think about the PA scale, healing is right in the middle of that scale. So you don't want to be too much light, too much. You want to be right in the center. And I feel like it's almost in the center of his albums, if you will, close to the center, like predating that. But that's when all those things started to come together, and he started to honor God again, even with not just the picture of the baby or his face. Now it was the picture of the Pharaoh, of the tomb, right? So all those things started to come together, and that was the part of my journey where I didn't get to the meditative part, but I was okay with saying, you know what? I'm digging into all these religions for myself now. It's not just my mother and my father saying, you gotta go to church. I wanted to know who God was for myself while being a fly little nigga, while being out here in these streets, while serving them packs and learning that aspect of myself. All those things just found a center when Nas kind of found his center on I Am.
I beg you to watch Mike Council episode number 4 when it drops, because it was written as a hot topic.
Okay.
All right, now let's flip this.
Okay.
The written word is the process that makes an MC define his sound. What's the most impactful book or word that you ever read that changed your mind, Steve?
That's recently, and I'm an avid reader, but Autobiography of a Yogi, by Paramahansa Yogananda, and he's pretty much the first celebrity yogi in America, right? In the early 60s, late 50s, early 60s, kind of going into the 70s, and he established ashram in California called Self-Fellowship, I believe that's the name of it. But he kind of popularized Kriya. It's the whole bunch of different sects of yoga and meditation, but he popularized Kriya yoga, which is known as the lightning path. Because a lot of these paths can take multiple life cycles, and even if you get it done in one life cycle, it's going to take you, for most people, between 8 and like 12 years to really break through to self-realization, to that state of real wokeness. So that and Steve Jobs also credited the majority of his success to reading that book. A lot of celebrities the same thing, but that book is not only his autobiography, but it has a lot of the science of yoga, specifically Kriya yoga. But that book helped me to realize that I wasn't crazy, because you start to realize the more you level up, the synchronicity of everything. I wouldn't have been able to have that thought with the banana. You know what I'm saying? Had it not been for me seeing my own journey, seeing how things played out to put me in a position to be suicidal and depressed, and what that eventually turned into, of how I met my wife, of how my son came to be, all these stark synchronicities that couldn't have happened any other way to produce the life I'm now living. That book helped to coalesce that for me. So, Autobiography of a Yogi.
What's more detrimental to hip hop? Streaming or lack of cooperation?
Definitely lack of cooperation.
How so?
I don't feel like streaming is a bad thing. I don't believe in good or bad anyway. But definitely lack of cooperation, because if we were still in a frequency of being cooperative, we would still be in control of our platform, and more control than we are now. And even if that cooperation led to still the age of streaming, we would be the ones benefiting mostly from it. We don't even own our culture, we don't own our crafts, we don't own our masters, we don't own our promotion, we don't own our marketing, we don't own much. The one thing we kind of do own is what happens up here. But like you said, once it gets to that piece of paper, once it's recorded, then what? And we are left to, all right, can you help? Can you do this? You know what I'm saying? And a lot of that a lot of that reality was created through our lack of being able to cooperate with one another, whether East West Coast, you know what I'm saying, when that was a big thing, whether New York, Jersey, you know what I mean, all these different boxes and categories we got stuffed into, it made us forget that hip hop is something that was supposed to reach across the world and unify us, and in a lot of ways, shapes, and forms, it's just further separated us.
Okay, so then how can we tell that somebody's hip hop without their phone?
What do you mean by that? Without their phone?
Well, I'll put it to you like this. I believe streaming killed the game for the artists more than the industry.
Okay.
Because if everybody has free access to you, which is good, you use it for its purpose. We don't use streaming for its purpose. Like I said, if somebody plays the game but doesn't know the rules, are you really playing the game? And a lot of us follow what Razcat said. Jews run hip hop, but niggas run around in it.
Right.
So if we're just running, but we're not running with a purpose, we're just busy. I think people are busy with hip hop here and not really valuing it or expressing it here. So what is hip hop? Are people hip hop without their phone? I'm saying, if all your music's here, then your understanding's here.
I got you. Yeah, they still hip hop.
How?
Because hip hop existed way before that phone. Hip hop existed way before these mediums that we may either fuck with or not fuck with. Whether it's streaming, vinyl, whatever, hip hop is a state of mind beyond even an art form. So yeah, you don't need no phone to be hip hop.
We like to get everybody else.
You can be Tom Hanks in Castaway on a deserted fucking island for the rest of your life and still be hip hop.
We're trying to get people to put the phone down and purchase the music, because that's hip hop.
I'm with that though.
That's hip hop rather than I got the new, and you don't really got it. Because as soon as your plan or your internet died, you lose all your albums. And yeah, hip hop came from God.
Right.
You got a heart beat. You walk in step.
Facts.
Your system is in harmony. Right. Harmony gives rhythm.
Yep.
So that's hip hop. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's what it is. So then, who's the most hip hop person you've ever experienced? Whether you met them or just heard them or seen them, and they're not even in the hip hop music genre.
Paul Bonagura.
And how so?
And I'm not expecting nobody to know him. Everybody got that teacher, right? That really just like opens your mind. You ever heard of the Upward Bound program?
Yes, I have.
Upward Bound program was great for me. I went to the one at Seton Hall Prep. For those who don't know, I think it's still going on, but it's a program for inner city youth to kind of get us out of the hood. It's a summer program where we do all these different things, have all these different experiences. But Paul Bonagura was the English teacher in this program. And you would have thought he was on coke if you saw him. Like hippie, flower person type of dude, long hair, crazy disheveled clothes. But when I tell you the amount of knowledge he had, but the level of passion he had in what he was conveying to us. And first couple of days, all of us in his class like, yo, this motherfucker is crazy. But we respected his level of, I don't give a fuck what y'all think. I'm at least get these keys out to y'all. And he's the person who first acknowledged that I had talent at that time on the slam poetry side of things. I wasn't even rapping, had no idea I would become a rapper. But he saw how I put words together and started to show me classical poetry as well as poetry from civil rights eras, Last Poets and Voltaire and all these different people, William Blake. So his level of, and he almost got fired like every week because of how radical he would approach our classes. Sometimes we wouldn't even actually go to the class setting. He would take us off campus to just to expand our consciousness, and he would take that risk. And mind you, I think he had like 4 kids. He had kidney issues, all type of shit, bro. But it was a one-track mind when he got in there with us. And we our spoiled asses at those times, even though we was from the hood, we had so many resources and opportunities we really took for granted. And he didn't have a lot of anything. And when we got in those classes, he gave everything he had to just, whatever potential we had to expose it. Whether we was a writer or not, he just wanted to spark something in our mind to make us go to the next level. So he was the most hip hop person I ever been around. So if you still alive, Paul Bonaguro, if you on the other side, man, I appreciate you, bro. Changed my whole life.
Last question, the most important question. We believe in legacies. You're on camera, you're in movies, you have albums. 2,000 years when they found Dox Diggla, how was the world better because he existed and the message that he gave?
The world is better because of the example, the legacy I left being that first priority is self. And the reason I didn't say God, and I mean God when I say self, especially in these religious boxes we end up in. When we pray, we're praying a lot of times to something outside of ourselves, to Sky Daddy, right? Or to some perception of something elsewhere. You are part of God. If we was made in the likeness and the image of God to a certain degree, if God is omnipresent, to a certain degree, we omnipresent. If God is omniscient, to a certain, so on and so forth. So when you really start to understand what the meaning of life is really about, it's about connecting with the divine, infinite version of yourself, which you can't do by just stopping at hip-hop, by just stopping with your album, by just stopping with your mixtape. Your mixtape, like you said, gotta be that finger, just like the Bible, pointing to that bindu or pointing to yourself.
So everybody out there, we hope you learned something. More than anything, if you love this man, support this man.
Facts.
I'm gonna put it on myself. I'm gonna challenge myself. I got like 3 jobs, bro.
Right.
But when I get a day off,
salute.
I'm going to your class.
No doubt.
I'm gonna make it happen because I went to one before.
Okay.
And shout out to Ms. Parker.
Okay.
I love her.
Yeah,
Her is
okay.
born. Like, love her.
Right.
She's a knowledgeable woman. Shout out to her podcast
Right.
too, who instead of putting me on sexual energy, she put me on mental energy.
Okay.
And it was funny she did that by having a conversation with you on stage that opened me up to. Back in the day, you was scared to talk to a lady because you don't know she'd accept you.
Right.
I was more scared to talk to her to see if I could match her level of thought. And she's dope. So shout out to her. Shout out to you for having the event. And we're gonna support. So everybody out there, buy the music, invest your time, and spend time in thinking to go to your next level. This is Dox Diggla, Heritage Hip Hop, Fatty's Place, Transparent. We out here.
Peace to the
We
gods.
say peace.
Peace to the goddesses.
And we out.
We are the All-Spark. I seen it all, did most of it. From low budget to Keenan and Damon. More money, more money, more money is the mantra. And live in color, your brother hustles without a sponsor. Love is a battlefield, I'm stuck in this contra. In love with my listeners and they love what I offer. Exercising my demons, speaking to those I conquer. Folks who said your boy wouldn't come up is feeling awkward. I came from, I'm feeling strange too. You can't boost your credit score with paid dues. Broke still everybody look up to me like I'm 8'2". Praise group for this brand new digging the crates crew. Real hip hop. Real